Good afternoon, metalheads, and welcome to another episode of Metal Sanctuary. This one I thought about doing for a while, but I kept it on the back burner because I really wasn't in a huge hurry to do it. But I did want to do it before I started getting into the different subgenres of metal, and it was kind of brought up by a comment that was made in one of my other videos about why the need for different subgenres. Why can't we just call it metal? And it raises a good point because I've heard this from quite a few of my metalhead friends that just say, "Well, I'm into metal," and that's good because in that aspect it says, well, if somebody says I'm into metal, then we go, okay, that's somebody like me. But there's some metalheads that prefer a specific genre over others. And so, if I come up to you and I say, well, I like metal, and the guy says, oh, you like Cannibal Corpse? Well, no, I don't like Cannibal Corpse. I listen to and I name a bunch of bands, and they may primarily be from a specific subgenre that I listen to the most. Like, I'm not the biggest black metal fan out there. I like a few bands. The aesthetic to me musically, just for the most part, especially the early black metal bands, the production very raw, and I understand the point behind it, but I want to be able to differentiate between the lead guitar and the crash cymbal. I mean, that's just me. I don't want to hear something I can't figure out. So we have a lot of subgenres of metal. We've got, if you want to call it one, or even time periods, we have classic metal, new wave of British heavy metal, new wave of American heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal, and then the subsects of death metal, industrial metal, black metal, power metal, things like that. So, somebody might be more into Fear Factory version of metal than they would be Judas Priest. So I think it's very important to say that. And the other reason I would say is it helps classify a band that somebody's never heard of. If I say, hey, you should check out this band called Exodus, and they go, well, what do they sound like? So instead of saying, well, the guitars are really fast and the vocalist is kind of, not a technically great singer, but he's getting the message across, and the drums are really fast, and this, that, and the other, this is what the kind of lyric topics are. Instead of just naming all that, you just say they're a thrash band, and somebody who likes thrash metal is more than likely going to like Exodus. If you say, well, do you like Cannibal Corpse? Well, what do they sound like? Well, they kind of sound like it's really fast, and sometimes it's really slow. You can't really, it takes you a while to understand what the vocals are. They talk a lot about death or a lot about Satan or whatever. Instead of just saying that, I like death metal, or that they're a death metal band. And somebody who may have already experienced listening to a death metal band, if they hear you say, oh, it's a death metal band, then they already know it's not worth their time to check it out. And so, I think it also brings up an important point that metal is a subgenre of rock music, and there are many different classifications of rock music. You've got indie rock, psychedelic rock, classic rock. Punk is considered a version of rock. So I do think it's very important to have those classifications, because I want to know what kind of band you're talking about. I want to know if it's something that's going to be worth my time. If you tell me such and such is a metalcore band, I'm probably not going to go ahead and check that out because I dislike metalcore. Or, for the most part, I really don't care for a lot of deathcore bands. So I'm probably not going to waste my time, and it's time I could, spend doing something productive or something else. So that would be the reasons why I would say we have these subgenres of metal and subgenres of other subgenres of just music in general. I mean, there's not usually one type of classical music. There's usually not one type of techno music. Punk's got several different versions. You got punk, you've got hardcore punk, you've got crust punk, you've got hardcore, which is amalgamation of thrash metal and the punk stuff. So that's where I stand on why we have subgenres and why I think it's important to label bands a certain way. And it's also important with the subgenres that are considered metal. Like on the post I had was about glam and new metal, how I don't consider them to be metal bands. And one of the comments was, why can't I just, I like what I listen to what I like, and that's fine. That's completely. I'm not one of these types of persons that says metal is the only music you can listen to if you're a metalhead. I know a lot of metalheads that listen to jazz, they listen to blues, they listen to country, they listen to classical, they listen to some pop, they listen to, various different things, maybe even some disco type stuff. I mean, my good buddy Ron, one of his guilty pleasures he won't say anything about is, he really loves ABBA, has everything they've ever done. Inside joke between us two. Love you, buddy. But my point is, so we have labels for a reason. It's just like, anything else in life. If you're labeled an athlete, well, what kind of athlete are you? Are you a football player? Or, and if you're a football player, what position do you play? I think, labeling just in general helps us get a better idea of what something is. So I have an idea of what somebody might want to get into, or what I might want to get into. So there's my few minutes, and I think almost the shortest one we probably had. So anyway, there we go. Subgenres, we need them. We love to classify things. We love to debate which bands were the best of subgenres, which ones were the more influential, and we need them. So stay metal, and God bless.